I'm Casey Callahan. I'm a communication major here at Kennesaw State. My concentration is in public relations, but I would do anything, so.
And so what have you picked up in the leadership realm?
To be a leader, you not only have to care about yourself, but you have to care about the people around you. People are people. You have to remember that first and foremost. When you're trying to be a leader, you have to get into their head a little bit. You have to know where they're coming from. You can't just be like, well, I'm this person, I stand high, I stand proud. You have to say, I might stand a little higher, but I'm not better. I might have a little more education, but I'm not better than the person that's sitting on the street and doing something different. I've just maybe had a couple more opportunities, and that's the word I went with. All of these people were opportunistic. People are people. All of these leaders hit me in a more emotional way of how much they really cared for other people and cared about themselves. And I can sit here and say I learned this and I learned that, but in reality, the big thing I picked up are relationships. And one thing that Bob Artmetko said, relationships take precedent over transactions. And that's something that stuck with me.
And so his experience was what? What was unique about his experience?
Well, I think his is he started as a baseball player. He started off, playing baseball his whole life and going to almost be in the major leagues. And he saw the relationships, and he was so happy for his brothers when they got drafted. Then all of a sudden he got drafted, and he saw people for people. And when he got into IBM, he was, salesman. He was the first 3 years he saw people, and he was doing the things he needed to do to build relationships. That's what you do as a salesperson. You build relationships, so that way when you're higher on the food chain, you can come back to them and be like, remember 5 years down the road when I sold you something? Well, it's building those relationships, and he did that his whole time at IBM. He remembered his secretaries that he had from 30 years ago and still brought them to a luncheon when he retired.
So what else is rambling around in your brain?
I think all of these people left where they came from better better than where it started. Someone that really hit home for me was Betty Siegel. Every place she went, she had an idea in her head and she made it happen. When she was at Western Carolina, when she was at the University of Florida, when she was here at Kennesaw State, you can notice the changes that Betty Siegel made here at KSU. And Bob Artmetko, he left a place a little better. He was someone who took the relationship side of it, but he also didn't say, oh, you can't not do your work, but he said, we're gonna do the two things together. You're gonna do the things you need to do, but you're also gonna treat people the way they need to be treated. Jim Blanchard, the servant leadership. He treated people wonderfully, and he left things better than where it came from. He was like, if you're not gonna do these things, you're gonna be fired. But that's not being bad, that's leaving it better.
Do you think all of the leaders were opportunistic?
Yes, I think all of them were. Eric Huey, he left China to come to America because he wanted to be better. Lisa Borders, she had all these things she could have done. Her family said, be a doctor, be this, do that. She was like, I'm gonna do what I wanna do. I'm gonna work for who I wanna work for. Betty Siegel, what opportunity didn't she take? Bob Artmetko, he was opportunistic in the way that he left something he's known his whole life, playing sports, and I really connect with that and say, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna build an education, I'm gonna do what I need to do.
Artmetko had that ability to walk away. Mm-hmm. Even when he was on the cusp of being called up, He walked away. Did the other leaders walk away from other things? Did they know when it was time to walk away? I
think they all did. Eric Huey knew when it was time to leave IBM. Betty Siegel knew when it was kind of her time to kind of phase out and kind of leave it to the leader in charge. Lisa Borders knew when it was time to maybe step back from hiding behind the shadows and sitting in a boardroom and say, it's time for me to take the lead. And she knew when to step away from a bad situation and make it a good situation.
My name is Kinsley Fields. I am currently a junior here at Kennesaw State University, and my major is international business with a concentration in marketing.
And so what have you learned in leadership?
Well, I guess a better question is, what didn't I learn?
Okay.
During this semester-long class, I've learned that leaders are not necessarily the people that you believe they are, and that a way that you can really find who is a good leader is how they treat people. Especially during my experience in using the leader I chose, Lisa Borders, I learned that how you form a relationship with someone can really help define you as a leader yourself and how other people view you as a leader. I kind of developed sort of a system of how I looked at Lisa Borders and the other members that we chose, and pretty much developed it around a couple of key groups. How they have relationships with their community, with their faith, as well as with their family members. You will see a common trend in how they begin by talking about their relationship with their parents, as well as with their spouse, and also with their children, as well as their work relationships, which is also a key component. And then finally, how they deal with relationship barriers, how they deal with people that for whatever reason may not like them, and how they build a trust and relationship with other people.
So you said there were things you didn't learn about leadership. What were you expecting to learn?
I was expecting, I guess, to see these are certain traits that every leader has, and if a person doesn't exhibit this trait, then they're not a leader. But I learned that it wasn't necessarily that black and white, in that there are some characteristics that some leaders have that others don't. And that's probably the biggest takeaway for me, is that you can't assign a trait to someone and say therefore they're a leader. You have to look deeper than that. And I think with the people that we the videos that we watch really show that. During my time, really, I guess it's nice to see that there are different ways of viewing the same people. And the way that I looked at it and my peers, how they looked at the different people, we saw the same video, we watched the same people, but we took different things because of how we viewed our own personal lives, our own prejudices. We took into account things that really connected us with different individuals. For example, some of the leaders I didn't connect with at all. I mean, they were all successful, they were likable, but there wasn't that connection with some people that there were with others. I'm glad I chose Lisa Borders, because out of all the people, I felt like I connected with her the most. I could talk to you forever about a person that I've never met. And I think that's just something that, it says a lot, that you can know a person without ever saying a word to them.
So do you think that the videos, well, the Lisa Borders video, did that touch you more emotionally, or in a way that touched you in the inner you? Was that touched by your watching her video?
It was, and seeing a person articulate their point of view that well, it speaks volumes, and to just know, because I think what connected with me the most is the same thing that her parents told her were some of the same things that mine told me, and it connected because it's like this great leader has some of the same things that my parents have been telling me, so they're operating on some of the same moral codes, and it's just really nice. It's really nice to determine, well, me, this average everyday person that's just going to KSU, are learning some of the same traits that this successful woman is learning. And to know that, it's just amazing.
Super. And your name is?
My name is Tyra Dion. I'm a sophomore at Kennesaw State University, majoring in education with a concentration in middle grades education.
And so, what have you learned in leadership?
My biggest takeaway is that leadership is a pendulum. And through the process of being a leader and going through everything, there's a lot of highs and lows, but the main act of a pendulum is that it keeps swinging. And that's what you have to do when you're a leader. Through everything that happens when you're on that high, when you're being successful and everything's going well and you have, good people behind you and all that support, but then there's always going to be that valley that you go through, whether it be in the beginning or in the middle or the end of your journey in leadership. And you just have to keep going.
Did you find that some leaders experience a period of loneliness as a leader? Do they isolate themselves?
I think the leader that I chose, Eric Huey, he experienced some of that. And just with his background, when he had to leave China and just move completely away from his family to the United States and just go off on his own and do things, you know, for himself, he experienced that loneliness. But he just had to keep going.
Yeah. So how do you think that his story fits into what you perceive to be good or bad leadership?
Well, when he was in engineering school, he had a lot of struggles because he had to support himself and at the same time go to school and be successful. And he found that really difficult. He worked in gas stations, he waited tables, he worked in the infirmary, and his grades started to slip because of that, obviously. And there was a time when he failed 2 classes and the dean had to go to him and say, what's going on here? But the dean actually gave him that chance to do better. So just the fact that through everything, he always has all these obstacles thrown at him and he just keeps going anyway. And the fact that, he is a minority, he is Chinese, and that was a big struggle when he started working at IBM. He pushed forward and he had that self-confidence, and that's where it begins, really. Because in order to be a good leader and to get respect, you can't just always be anticipating your failures.
Is there a deeper continuity that you get from listening to the videos or watching the videos than you do from reading books or watching any other kind of structured interview process?
I think when you watch the videos, you build a connection with the person that's speaking, because you can hear the emotion in what they're saying, and sometimes you can relate better that way. And I related a lot to Eric Huey because just all the things that happened to him in his life, just the struggles that he had to go through, and I had to go through a lot of things when I was younger, living in the Bronx. So I related to that on that level, and just having to, no matter what happened, just having to keep pushing forward, having that self-confidence, and I struggle with that personally. I always feel like I need approval from others in order to do well. When he was working at IBM, his goal wasn't to be well-liked. And in a company that is successful, there's always going to be the bad guy. And he decided to take on that role. And he did what he had to do in order for the company to be successful. And I feel like I need to do that more in my own life. Sort of be the bad guy in my own life.
Okay. For yourself?
For myself.
Oh, that's interesting. Your own critic. You have a little voice in your head that keeps criticizing everything?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
and I think that everyone is criticizing me.
Yeah.
So.
You think they are?
Yeah, I do.
What's interesting, you may find out that those of us who are making decisions and doing things, we're always keeping track of our score. And then we turn around later in our careers and say, wait a minute, no one else is keeping score, and you're the only one keeping score. I said, well, the heck with it. If they don't notice, it's not important. Was there anything else in the videos between that you watched that were common to the theme that Eric was talking about?
I think that he had a lot in common with Lisa Borders, just the fact that they both had sort of a perfectionist type of personality. They always wanted to be the best at what they did.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
My name is Kareem Pierre. I am studying pre-physical therapy, majoring in exercise science.
And your big takeaway from leadership studies is?
My takeaway was, with all the leaders, I've noticed that they had a huge impact on others. And when we were discussing the difference between managers and boss and actual leaders, is that leaders teach you more than what's in the books. They teach you life lessons, and what they do is they don't necessarily focus on the how to, but the why to, why you're doing the things that you do. You have to find they help you find the sense of purpose in everything that you're doing. And with someone like Betty Siegel, which was the one that I focused on, the people in her lives, her teachers, everyone, the amount of influence that led her to become the person that she was, it wasn't just them teaching her certain skills or whatever in her textbook or work. They were just teaching her how to live a good life. With Betty Siegel, she told this story of when she was younger, and she was a very smart child, but one time she decided that she was going to cheat on a test because she really wanted an A. But she ended up getting caught by her teacher. And when that happened, her teacher didn't scold her or anything. She didn't tell her that she was bad. What she did was she looked dead at her and told her that you are capable of doing this without cheating. She told her the words, you are capable of being what you're capable of becoming. And that actually hit me really hard because what she did was she saw something in her that maybe not other people saw. She looked deeper and she knew that whatever you wanted to be in life, you can achieve it without taking the easy way out. You can be whoever you want to be as long as you go for it. And I think what really connected me to this was when I was younger, I did gymnastics a lot. And the gym that I practiced at just started out a men's program. And so when it first started out, we of course had to try out to make it onto the team. And with me, I actually almost didn't make it into the team if it wasn't for one of the two head coaches. Because the other one saw that when I was younger, I wasn't necessarily the most fit child. So I didn't have the body composition to be in this team. But what the other coach saw was that I had a lot of potential and that I would work hard for it and I would never give up and I would keep trying. And because of him, he put me on the team, and later on I just became a great gymnast. And that's what, with Betty Siegel and her teacher seeing something in her that she can be who she wants as long as she goes for it and works hard for it. And that's actually what I loved about all of the leaders. They look at the people that they work with and they see more than what others would see. And with all of this, what I got was they influence others. They have, like I've mentioned before, they encourage others. They see more than what other people see. So.
I like that thought. How much, I guess, intuitiveness do you see in these leaders? In that, like I said, they see things in other people. Did you get that sense, or did they talk about that in any way?
I was really connected with Betty Siegel in a more personalized way because of the way that she thinks. In her interview, she seemed a little scatterbrained and her thought process is everywhere. And I feel that that's a lot like me. If you notice, a lot of times my thought process could just be everywhere and I'm trying to get to a specific point, but it kind of...
She never let a specific point get in her way.
Yeah, it's like, and a lot of times I'm like that too. It's just a lot of ideas everywhere and I'm trying to get to one point. I know with Bob Artemenko, when he was speaking, he was talking about mentors. He talked a lot about mentors, and that's actually one of the main things about with all of the leaders, that they had mentors. With Bob Artemenko, when they saw being a mentor, it's like, when I compare it to like Betty Siegel, it's like being a teacher. Because she stated that we're all teachers in a way. What I found amazing about the leaders is that with all of them, they did a lot of self-reflection. And I think that's actually what I want to say. With mentors and teachers, they actually get you to look at yourself and look at your lives. When I was talking about finding purpose, you have to know why you're going after something. You have to look into yourself, reflect on your life, and go, am I doing this because I'm being told to do this, or I'm doing this because this is what I want? With my life, I'm always self-reflecting and seeing, where do I fit in? Why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Is it because other people are just telling me to do these things, or is it because this is what's right with me? And that actually goes with, what I saw with all the leaders is understanding their sense of values and understanding what they believe is what's right and wrong. And they're doing these things because they believe it's right, no matter if someone else doesn't believe so. As long as you believe it, then it's the right thing to do. So with finding purpose, understanding your value, a lot of self-reflection, I believe that helps impact the lives of others, because people will follow you. I believe that you can only influence others when you understand yourself. You can't expect people to follow you when you don't understand what you believe in and understand your own values.
I like that a lot. That was good.
Thank you.
In the realm of leadership, we often talk about that. Obviously, if you're a leader, there's got to be a follower. Okay, but are followers, I guess, people who are mustered to follow something, or are they predisposed to follow something that they want to be led to? You see what I'm talking about? People aren't just sort of standing around saying, okay, tell me what to think, tell me what to do, and I'll follow you because you're thinking for me and you're telling me what to do. Or is it more like we all have these aspirations, we all have these things that we want to accomplish, but we just need to find somebody that we trust to help us get there. Did that come through?
Yes, actually, with the idea of followers and leaders, I think with followers, there is a particular, they may have a belief in a set value, but the difference between the leader and the follower is that the follower is always waiting for someone else to act upon it before they do. With a leader, they're not afraid to take the charge. And they may have a small fear, but that's not going to hold them back from going in front of others. With the follower, they have the ideas in their head, they have their belief system, but they're just waiting for someone else to go ahead of them, to at least, almost as if they're trying to see what happens if this person goes for it. And if that person's okay, then I'll go ahead and try it. But with the leader, I believe with them, they're not afraid of taking the risk. If there may be negative consequences, but they don't let that hold them back. They go ahead and take the chance and go after it.